Baraka the Salah, everybody, and happy weekend, happy Sunday to our Christian brothers, Baraka the Salah, our Muslim brothers. Federal government should be held accountable. All the insecurity challenges, including all the pie where they happen for Nigeria, regardless of where it is happening, whether it's in the north, whether in the south, whether in the southeast, whether in the south, uh, pipeline explosions, bombing, and all that, whether in the southwest, herdsmen and farmers clashes, all sorts of insecurity challenges. Federal government is responsible. Now, the latest one that people are reacting to that happened in Edo State, federal government is equally responsible for it, and I'll explain. Every mob justice you see in Nigeria is as a result of people resorting to self-help after the police and other government institutions failed on justice. Now, do you know how many times in Ondo and Edo State that people have protested, people have reported, people have called for justice, people have called for arrests, people have cried out, and government did nothing? All of these are indices to show that federal government knows about insecurity but failed to do anything. And as such, there's something called survival instinct. People want to survive and they are tired of government not doing anything, consequence upon which they would have to resort to self-help. So all the things you see, mob justices are self-help. All right? Mob justice is nothing but self-help. And self-help doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It happens because federal government fails. Nigerian government generally, whether at the state, local government, national, regional tier level, all of them failed to respond appropriately to cries of people over insecurity. So people resort to self-help because government failed. Some of you remember Alu 4. I mean, we've been shouting and ranting and doing advocacies against mob justice for a very long time. After Alu 4, where those, you remember those four young men were occupied by mob justice, we started an advocacy against mob justice. Okay. Since then, police pretended or maybe seemed to have buckled up. Then people, you will notice that since then, the resort to mob justice actually helped down. But because afterwards, people have been shouting, kidnapping is on the rise. Herders are destroying people's farmlands, raping women, and killing farmers. But because all the shouts, regardless, Nigerian government did nothing. In Ondo State, the incidents increased, and despite that, government did nothing. And after kidnapping increased and people shouted, cried, in fact, how many days ago, people, indigenous of Ondo State went to the state office, like government office, to protest. What did the governor do? Nothing. Kidnapping continued. Elders invading people's farms continued, unabated. And what would you expect? People want to survive. And it got to a point where people started to think that some people are treated like more senior or superior citizens over them. For instance, you remember Ibarapa, something that triggered Sunday Igboho to be angry that time at Ibarapa. Certain man who was it Wakil or what was his name, who said nobody dares try him. And because government did nothing, non-state actors decided to sweep to going and say no, this is our own region. We can't try this in your own region. But if you report them, you end up becoming the culprit. Like you'll be treated like the suspect. The person committing the atrocity will not, nothing will happen to them. They will be protected. So it now begins to feel that in your own region you are the inferior citizen. The invaders are superior to you. The same thing happened in the southeast that made people start all sorts of, non-governmental organizations, movements to say, oh no, we must banish all those people who are causing calamities on our land, and they are receiving treatment and coverage from government, protection from the Nigerian government against people who are, uh, the offender now becomes the guilty. If you go to police station to report them, you become the guilty one. So they started feeling, oh, so you mean we are inferior in this contraption called Nigeria? So when government failed to do what it's supposed to do, people resort to self-help. So there's no justice, and people resort to mob justice. So if you see people resorting to mob justice in Nigeria, it is because government and all its agencies, departments, institutions, parastatals failed in their responsibilities. So people had no choice or option than resort to self-help. So government is responsible, technically, not even indirectly, directly, for mob justices that people resort to in Nigeria. We are not in any way defending mob justice, but we are calling for government to wake up on its task. Nobody really wants to resort to self-help if the institutions so set for responses to things like this actually respond appropriately. Nobody would resort to self-help. But because over time, even if you get to arrest these people, hand them over, they will still be released. How many people want to clear farmland, invest in planting crops, guide them, weed the land, do everything possible until it is about time to harvest, and somebody will just bring like herds of cattle to your farmland and destroy everything with impunity. And by the time you report to police, police will say, allow them to eat your crop now. Like, for real? Like, you mean I suffered, I labored to all these things for somebody to just bring their cattle and destroy my it's like I'm working for them. I don't understand. Now, food is expensive because farmers have abandoned their farmlands. The farm where people are supposed to be bringing crop for sale, all those farmlands have been abandoned. Farmers have vacated the farmlands because of fear of rape of their women, murder of they themselves, destruction of the farmland, and wasted efforts. So farmers decided to abdicate. They abandoned the farms. So there are no people anymore in the farmlands. So the few people who are still doing, they are still facing the same crisis. The other day in Ogun State, how many of you remember about 2 years or so ago, some people turned herdsmen back with their cattle from their farm. The herders returned with soldiers, and the soldiers flogged the farmers and said, allow them to graze on your farm. Yeah, the herders returned. It's checking the news. Soldiers flogged farmers on behalf of the herders to say, allow them graze on your farm. Do you know what that means? It means next time I'm not going to try to farm again, because government is siding with these elders who are destroying, plundering our efforts. So I'm not going to go back to say I want to still go and do what again. So all those people shouting, they must be brought to justice. They must be brought to justice. while you are calling that the mob, uh, people in the mob who committed that atrocity must be brought to justice, let us also be sincere and not be hypocritical or political. Let's also be sincere to say, wait, what led to resort to this self-help? We must always, you must condemn them together. If you condemn the mob action in isolation, hypocrisy is already laced in your action. There's hypocrisy already. So do not allow yourselves to be used for politics. Yes, jungle justice not good, but we must take it in its context. What led to this jungle justice? What made people resort to self-help? If government perennially fails to respond appropriately to earthsmen coming on people's farm, then people who want to survive will have no option than to protect themselves, than to help themselves. So yes, while we say no to jungle justice, we must also ask the government, what have you done to protect these farmers from these herders, so that they no longer will have to resort to self-help? Isn't it tiring? It's tiring. It's draining. Do you know how much we buy food now? You can't grow crops on your own farmland in peace, even in your region in Southwest. I do not know the circumstance that led to these people who committed this mob. And you know, Ondo, Edo is sensitive. Ore, Bini Ore, very sensitive. Was that not the same Edo, between Edo and Ondo, that Shoret's brother was murdered the other day? Because it is so common around that place that herdsmen are just carrying out all sort of things, atrocities. So all these atrocious acts, and government failed to do anything. See, this lucky they just went to put their governor in Ondo State. Now I did that, Bele or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. People have been people have been shouting. There has been increase in the atrocious activities of herdsmen since then. And the question is, Oga, what are you doing? People protested to the government house how many days ago? And because of the failure of governments to respond appropriately, people have resorted to self-help. And how long will this end now? Because nobody wants to continue to fold their arms and allow themselves to continue to be the victims. According to, they said they found these people with weapons, including assault rifle. So what are they doing with it? And I'm not sure. They said they were not found with cows. They were only found with these weapons. At a time where kidnapping is on the increase, are those weapons licensed? Calls for proper investigation. And this is the time where the person who is now president is the same person who asked, where are the cows, the other day? The same person who asked, where are the cows, is now the president. Okay, now, this new set of victims are not found with cows, but found with weapons at a time where kidnapping is on the increase in that same axis. While the best thing for those people to have done was to have handed these individuals to the police. But if you hand them over to the police, you return as the guilty one. In fact, you'll be the one to be locked up for reporting them to the police. Yeah, that is the feelers we have gotten so far. No, check in the news, check in the history. Everybody who reported anybody who had loads of ammunition, all those rifles, you are in possession of all these instruments. Somebody now comes to report it to police. Now that person go police go deal with now. Now the reporter, now police they deal with. So far, and kidnapping has been on the increase. Consequent upon that, we know the context in which people would have reacted that way. RIP to those who were pied. It is unfortunate. We do not want mob justices in Nigeria. We do not want mob actions in Nigeria. But if police had been up to task, if Nigerian government has been doing what it's supposed to do, would Nigerians resort in any way to self-help like this one? So we will still have to dump it at the doorstep of the Nigerian government. We will still have to dump it there. So that's just the message today. Please, let's be careful the way we dump blames at people who are only trying to survive. It's survival instinct. But at the same time, it is condemnable because the suspect would have been simply handed over to the police. Unfortunately, what does police do with such? Nothing comes out of it. In the same Ondo state, the same as Ondo Edo, Oba of Ifon was pied by arms-bearing class of people like this. And you know, such a people would not take it lightly again. They will not. Gentlemen and ladies, this is my bit. It's painful that there's such in 2025 jungle justice. But again, contextually, it speaks to the failure of Nigerian police institution, and people no longer have confidence to get justice when they report matters to police. It also is a sign of confidence in the Nigerian government for people to be resorting